What's up, mob? Hey, thank you for coming over and joining me on the MMA channel. I love mixed martial arts. It's so much fun. But a lot of you guys, and not all of you, but a lot of people don't like women's MMA. And I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. I think they have some of the most exciting fights ever. I'm going to get into that. Touch on Erin Blanchfield versus Fiore this weekend. Chris Weidman's also making let's be honest. Every single time he steps in the cage, it might be his last one. We're going to touch on that. But I really want to deep dive on why people don't like women's MMA, because I don't get it.
You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
So it's weird to me that some people don't like women's MMA. I don't get it. But I understand kind of why. It's the same reason the men's flyweight division doesn't do as well as it could. You get these incredibly talented athletes, but let's be real. When we watch fighting, we watch pugilists battle each other. The bottom line is sometimes we just want to watch people that are so much tougher than we are. I'm 215 pounds. A friend of mine, Elise Anderson, is one of the top atom weights in the world. She fights at 105 pounds. So walking around at 215, I'd probably fight at middleweight. So I'm a middleweight novice, and a bad novice at that. And I reached out to Elise. I said, hey, Elise, what does size matter in fighting? And I said, I wrestled a little bit back in the day. I said, if we went for 3 minutes, could you get a takedown on me? And because I'm bigger and I'm stronger, a novice man middleweight can hold off a 105-pound top 10 in the world. And I think a lot of that is like people like, oh, I don't want to see people that I could beat up, which is such a weird thing for me to. I like watching competition on any level. I don't need to have the highest level of competition to really be interested. Another reason I don't think people really dive into women's MMA is, as men, we're bred to be protectors, to be fighters, to be people who defend, and that's bred into us. And yes, it's a little bit chauvinistic, but it's hard to imagine women who are bred in society, originally caveman style. They are the homemakers. They are the nurturers. They're the ones that raise the kids. They're not known for fighting, defending, hunting, and gathering. That's down to those basic things. You guys got to get past that. You really do, because you're missing out on some of the best fighting you'll ever see. And it brings me back to, I don't watch tennis, but I've heard John McEnroe talk about how women's tennis is more fun to watch than men's tennis. And the reason he said that is because when men, they hit this 100 and something mile an hour serve, it's just like one and done. Women, technically, they usually don't have that kind of power to just drill the ball. Yes, I know some do, but their game is more based on once it gets a volley, you see a real action, you see them going back and forth, whereas men, it's just like, can you get that serve or not? And with MMA, a lot of times these big, heavy fighters like Ngannou, when you put big guys in little gloves, it's almost like that. Who can get the one punch? Who can get them? You don't even have to connect solid. These guys are so strong and so tough. You don't even have to have a perfectly technically thrown punch to knock somebody out. And, it becomes a little bit more chance. It's not as much strategy. It's not as much technique. It's not as much of a back and forth brawl. And with these women, I don't know if you guys watched the Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Weili championship fight. This was probably one of the best fights I've ever seen in my life. And it's because the girls just had heart and they didn't have that Francis Ngannou style power. Yes, Weili's very powerful and she can absolutely knock somebody out. But it just went back and forth, and the skill and the heart that some of these women show. I've seen more gutty performances out of women than I have of men of recent memory. Mackenzie Dern against Amanda Lemos. If you guys watch that fight, Mackenzie Dern is a beast. There was zero quit in her. She lost the fight. It was close, but she never quit. And the amount of damage she sustained and kept fighting through without quitting, whew, I don't know how you could ever say anything negative about women's MMA if you've watched those two fights. If you watch those two fights, dang. So when Dana White originally said he never wanted women in the UFC and that they'd never fight in the UFC, he didn't quite, I don't think he had the whole picture. And he's since come around, obviously, and there's women in their headlining cards and championships. And what he saw was very few women doing it, and there was a huge gap. And I think that was a bit of a cop-out. I think a lot of it was, I don't think Dana wanted to see beautiful women just blasting each other in the face and wrecking these works of art. And yes, I can't help it. I'm a man. A beautiful woman is nice to look at. When they have weigh-ins, I would much rather look at a highly toned woman in underwear than some dude that it's just not, it's a lot nicer. It's a lot more appealing, especially in grappling areas. And I know this is probably not going to be a popular opinion with the women, but as men, I like the sex appeal. I like seeing these girls who are in incredible shape, incredible athletes, testing their skills in the octagon. And yeah, it's a lot nicer to look at than Derek Lewis. Sorry, Derek Lewis, but I would much rather see girls grappling than Derek Lewis. I hate to say it, but it is what it is. Honestly, how many of you guys that dislike women's MMA, and this only applies to heterosexual men, sorry, gay guys, I'm sure you like looking at the men, but how many of you guys, when you were kids, especially if you're older like me, and I know it's we've got a different generation now, but how many of us had calendars with sexy women on them? A lot of us did. And that was it was acceptable back in the day. But do you really not want that? Like, I don't understand how you could not want that in fighting and in these sports. And it combines some things. And I think it's hard for some of the old schoolers to accept that these women are in these testosterone fueled fields where it's about fighting and savage and warriors. They have a hard time letting women into that space. But if you can get past that, the fighting is absolutely unbelievable. And I cannot wait. This weekend, Erin Blanchfield, who looks like just such a sweetheart, is going against the French girl, Fior. Now, Fior, let's be honest, she doesn't look nearly as womanly as Erin Blanchfield. But they're both it's going to be a great fight. And the winner's probably going to face the winner of Shevchenko versus Grasso. But if you are not paying attention to this weekend's fight in Atlantic City because of that, I feel bad for you. You are literally cutting out a large portion of MMA that is awesome. And to say they're not skilled, that's ridiculous. Watch some of the groundwork that these girls do. And it's different than men. They have stronger hips. They have stronger legs. A lot of times they have more flexibility. Is it the exact same? No, but they throw up some different stuff. There's different dangers. A woman in guard is not as safe as, say, men in guard because, like I said, they're hips. And women are naturally built differently. They have stronger hips and legs and weaker arms. That's why you sometimes see you see more arm bars in MMA women's than you do men's because they have stronger hips. They grab the arm. It's a weaker spot. It's a whole different dynamic that I absolutely love. And the other big thing this weekend on the Atlantic City card, Chris Weidman. Chris Weidman he's a legend in this sport. I mean, he's the guy that took down the unbeatable Anderson Silva. Not once, but twice. And then he went on to beat Machida, Belfort. He handled a lot of these Brazilian guys. He was a great champion. But there's this thing that nobody talks about. And I saw this, and maybe it was by coincidence, but when USADA came in, we saw a lot of these shrinking fighters. I didn't see him necessarily shrink, but his performances after USADA came into the testing pool, it changed in my mind. And maybe that's purely coincidence, but I don't think it's something you can completely overlook. So anyway, no matter how you spin it, Chris Weidman, absolute legend, champion. And coming back from that broken leg, and then to have his legs torn up by Brad Tavares in their last fight, I thought that would have been it. And even Dana White was like, I wish he would retire. I hope this goes well. The gentleman he's fighting he's got some heavy hands, and I just want Chris to get out of there okay and be the legend of the sport. At this point, this isn't like some of the other sports where you can hang around and just kind of compete and your results go down. Like in Supercross, if a guy's not as good, they get 10th, they get 15th. They don't get hurt worse. This is a sport where as you decline, you get hurt, like you become more at risk. And that's what's so scary about fighting. And what's also scary is these guys, these champions, they have these personalities. Nobody was, to tell somebody you're going to be a champion, nobody is ever going to believe you. They have this incredible belief in themselves. That same self-belief keeps them in there too long. And that's when we see these guys getting hurt later in their careers. But you never know. Maybe they'll come up with some dramatic comeback. And that's what they truly believe. But yeah, that fighter's the last one to know they're done. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for subscribing to this channel. And if anyone wants to get on board sponsoring the MMA channel, it's wide open right now. Yes, I don't have the views that I will have eventually. I don't have the views that I have on the Motorsports channel, but we'll get there. And if anyone wants to jump on board early, I will give you a discount. And trust me, it'll pay off later on. So hit me up at chriscookseymedia@gmail.com. And if anyone needs a house, if you're buying, renting, or selling in the Las Vegas area, hit me up, chriscookseymedia@gmail.com, and I'll be your agent. And if you're anywhere else in the country, I can still find you a house and an agent in your area that will get you dialed in. So make sure you hit me up either way. Thanks, guys. Later.